Well, the success story of IndiGo needs no introduction whatsoever. Indomitable market share, stock at an all-time high, record profit for the quarter gone by. And today what IndiGo has announced is that they have announced a real large plan of global expansion from every major city which I've been wanting to go, from London to Amsterdam to even Athens, which is in Greece. IndiGo now will soon be flying soon. So what is the thought behind it? For a company which has dominated the Indian market, Indian skies with a 50% plus market share for the longest time, why are they going public? Why are they going global? So let's take that conversation forward with Pieter Elbers, CEO of IndiGo. Peter, always a pleasure to have you on ET Now. Thank you for joining us. Now, it's a very big global expansion which IndiGo has announced. What is the thinking behind it, and how soon will this entire expansion plan kick in?
Yeah. Well, good afternoon, and thank you so much for having me in the show. You know, we choose today to make the announcement here, and today is actually the IATA AGM being hosted in Delhi itself. So we picked that moment where the entire global aviation community is here in India. India has been on a gradual trajectory of further internationalization and further growth. And, you know, we feel as the nation is spreading its wings, it's also IndiGo spreading its wings. And we have expanded a lot in the region, to the Middle East, to Southeast Asia, and last year even to Central Asia. And now, in fact, the next step is moving into Europe. And we have announced earlier Manchester and Amsterdam. These will be starting in July. And we have now actually added a couple of new destinations to that range, with indeed being London, Copenhagen, and Athens.
So, Peter, for a company which had no global presence or no presence outside India, now the revenue mix seems to be changing. So 3 years out for IndiGo, what would the revenue mix look like, domestic versus international?
Yeah, well, we're not sort of publicizing the revenue mix. What I can say is that we have moved, when it comes to our capacity share, we have moved up from what used to be in the 20s to now close to 30% of our overall capacity is international. And we have basically put a point on the horizon that in the next couple of years, that percentage will grow to around 40% of our network being international available seat kilometers.
Peter, but you're entering into an area where international competition is high from European travelers as well as airlines which come from Middle East. How would you find your space in a highly competitive global market?
Yeah, I mean, if you can operate in what I consider as the world's most competitive market, being India, I think we have a good starting point to start moving international. And by no means we should be arrogant, but I think the 3 fundamental pillars of IndiGo, affordable fares, a courteous and hassle-free service, and an on-time performance, have basically catapulted IndiGo in 18 years from a young startup airline to today welcoming every 3 days 1 million customers. Looking international, I think there's a lot of airlines, and indeed different type of competition. But if we stay truthful to the very core of IndiGo, including our cost leadership, I'm very confident that we have a product in place which is appealing not only to Indian consumers, but also to the international crowd. And with that, we're also adjusting our product to the new stage length. So in Amsterdam and Manchester, we'll be having hot meals. These are 10-hour flights from Mumbai. So, you know, you adjust your product as you go along.
So the idea behind this international expansion, is it to get the market share at competitive price, or this could be this perhaps could come at the cost of compromising on the margins? What would be a strategy in order to really gain market share and make IndiGo the go-to carrier for the global flyer?
No, I don't think market share would be any objective in itself. But the way how we would look at it, India is changing. And I mean, it's as recent as last week, India took over from Japan as the 4th largest economy in the world. And the expectation is by 2027, India is the 3rd largest economy in the world. So if home is the most populous nation on planet Earth, if home is soon to be the third largest economy in the world, if home has the largest diaspora all over the world, if home has an incredible ambitious traveling public, I think the opportunity really is out there to build on that international network and international opportunities. And 65% of the world population is living within a 5 to 6 hour range from India itself. So the opportunity that provides for us is really the driver, not whether we have a bit more or a bit less market share. The opportunity which is out there, and I think IndiGo is very well placed to make use and actually to reap the fruits of that opportunity.
If I look at your numbers for the quarter gone by, they were a beat on all estimates, and there were some extraordinary factors like Mahakumbh uptick which kicked in. But do you think in this quarter there could be an impact of base effect, there could be an impact of what happened 2-3 weeks ago because of geopolitical tensions, and do you think it would be safe to say that this would be a somber quarter for IndiGo because of external factors?
Being a stock-listed company, we have to publish numbers on a quarterly basis, which we do. And then, of course, we look at these numbers and there's some analysis. And you're absolutely right. Last quarter had some one-off, very unique events. I mean, Mahakumbh is a very one-off event. But if you look at the underlying trend for what happened last year, basically, we see a healthy, continuous growth, which one month is a bit lower, the other month is a bit higher. But the overall dimension and overall trajectory is very solid. I would look to the exact same, from the exact same perspective to this year. Of course, the last couple of weeks with the closing of 11 stations in the northeast part of India has really sort of forced us to reduce some flights. Then having said that were 170 flights out of the 2,200 flights we do daily operate. And the rest of the country and the rest of the network was in fact operating as it used to be. So I think the underlying fundamentals for the Indian traveling public haven't been changed. So I think IndiGo there with its diverse network all across the nation and international is very well positioned to deal with some of these sort of elements which temporarily influence it, but doesn't change the underlying dynamics of growth.
Peter, for the longest time, the challenge for the aviation sector, both globally and locally, has been availability of new aircrafts. Now, we know the numbers which are out in the public, which have been shared by you as to what kind of aggressive fleet expansion plan you have. But are you likely to meet your targets, given that both Airbus and Boeing right now have capacity constraints?
IndiGo is very well placed here. IndiGo has the world's largest order book, and we have over 900 aircraft on order. With that large order book, we are in the position to get one new plane each and every week coming into our fleet. So even last year, when we had some delays here and there, when we had some planes on the ground because of the global supply chain challenge, we have been able to meet our capacity target. So even in that situation, I think IndiGo has the ability and the agility to make sure that we either keep planes longer, we had some temporary leases, we find all kinds of solutions to deal with that. Overall, globally, we see actually an improvement in the supply chain, and with that, a reduction for us in terms of number of planes on the ground. And with that, we're very confident that we can continue our growth trajectory going forward.
What would be your fleet size by the end of this year? I'm talking about FY26.
There's some different variables to it, and I think one is what is your fleet size, and the other part really is, what is the number of planes in operation. We have given a capacity guidance for the year. We continue on the one new plane each and every week coming in, so we continue that trajectory, and we have some flexibility in terms of, number of planes we can either return to lessors or keep longer. So we haven't given a precise number, but the number of deliveries last year it was 58, which was the highest number any customer had from Airbus. And with the one plane a week kind of guidance we give for this year, you can figure out how it will probably end this year in terms of number of aircraft.
Clear the air, Peter. I hope you'll appreciate the spirit of my question, but this is of intense curiosity, which is that you do have a code-sharing agreement with Turkish Airlines. What is the status with that, and are you still flying to Turkey?
You know, we have a flight to Turkey, which is being governed by the air service agreement between Turkey and India. That's the way, by the way, it works between every country in the world. There's an air service agreement which organizes the traffic rights between the two countries in question. That's the framework in which we operate. On top of that framework comes a set of local, in this case, Indian regulatory framework. IndiGo is fully compliant with that regulatory framework, and importantly, we had and still have thousands of customers which are booked on those flights, Indian customers who are using our flight to Istanbul and then pretty much connect to the rest of the world. So we keep a close contact with the Indian government to make sure that we're fully compliant and aligned with whatever guidance and regulatory framework is there. And with that, we continue on that setting.
Confirming it to us right now, it is business as usual, and you are flying pretty much normal even to Istanbul. You're confirming that to us.
Today we continue our operation into Istanbul, and again we're in close contact with the Indian government to make sure that we continue to be compliant. If the regulatory framework change or if the guidance from the government change, we adjust our flights accordingly.
That clarification, Peter, I hope you appreciate the spirit of my question here. Before I wrap, Peter, I know, I'm extending my appointment with maybe a question more. How do you expect for IndiGo shareholders FY26 be different from FY25? Because there are a lot of moving parts like crude, capacity addition, total setting up of one-off events like Mahakumbh. So if you have to consider all these factors together, for your shareholders, how will 26 be different from FY25?
Again, you know that very well. As a listed company, we cannot give a kind of random guidance on the year. So we have given a capacity guidance, and each and every quarter we do that in the publication of our results. We share what's the guidance for the next quarter. What we have done today is actually announce a lot of strategic initiatives which will come to fruit in FY26. We touched upon the international network. We, for example, also announced that we move into the new Navi Mumbai International Airport by basically moving our flights partly from that airport and going international. We take steps in the field of partnerships, we take steps in the fields of MRO, all of that to continue our long-term journey for IndiGo.
You prompted me to ask just one final question, so I'll use the liberty of my anchor chair to just throw in one more last question. How will things change for IndiGo when you will divert your flights to the new Navi Mumbai airport, both in terms of passenger flight routes and also in terms of the cost or perhaps the technicalities?
Well, the new Navi Mumbai International Airport, I would say, was much awaited by the travel public. Look at Mumbai, the financial capital of India, places like Pune, very close by. So that entire area, in fact, could use this airport very much. And I think the combination of the existing airport in Mumbai and the new Navi Mumbai International Airport is a great opportunity to build on the traffic in that part. We have announced a deep partnership with the airport. We will have 14 international flights. We'll start with a number of flights there and quickly ramp up the number of daily flights. We have not yet disclosed to which destinations exactly. That's going to be done in due time, but clearly the opportunity in starting from that airport and at the same time keeping to the extent possible flights at the existing airport, I think is a great reflection of the demand in Indian aviation and in Mumbai in particular.
We will really appreciate your time, and thank you so very much for joining us on ET Now.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.